And welcome back to the show. I'm your nerdy host, Annie, and with me I have Skinny Chad Zumak. Hello, Skinny Chad, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Whether you're a filthy casual, a hardened pro, or a mobile gamer, join us as we rant, rave, and ramble about games that we like and games that we don't like. But as always, we're here to ask the question, what's this game?
BloodRayne 2.
This is made by Terminal Reality. It came back in 2004. It's 2 years after its first in the series. And honestly, I picked it up and didn't know what to expect from it. I saw a little bit from the Steam preview thing that came up whenever I went to go buy the game, and I was like, all right, looks good. You recommended it to me, and honestly, I was pretty impressed with it for a game that came out in 2004. A, I'm sad that I missed it, and B, I'm pretty impressed of how well it just functions. Now, I do know that I'm playing the terminal cut, which is the the newer version, not the newest version. The newest version is the revamped, which I believe came out in 2021. So I do know that I'm playing on a slightly improved version, although it's still buggy, just like the original.
Yeah, it's a for a game that came out at its time. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's more one of those games. It's more like about the mystique and the character and all that stuff, rather than the gameplay itself. But given where the series came from, it's a pretty decent entry, and it's probably one of the more iconic roles of the character so far. I mean, if people remember the character, I think they remember it more so from this game than the first outing.
I think so too. I mean, from what I just read briefly online, it seems like the first game is a lot more of a game, and this game is a lot more of a cinematic kind of like a story carrying you through, and the game is kind of a vehicle for the story, which is good. That's kind of what I preferred. I wasn't expecting it to have in the background here for the visual watchers, you can see that the game has cutscenes. The game starts out with Rain going to a party to track down somebody that she's going to kill. So I wasn't expecting it to be voice acted fully and have cutscenes. So, like I said, for a game that came out in 2004, I was kind of blown away. I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying this game.
Yeah, to compare and contrast to the prior game was a like this one. It was a bit of a slog, but the first one it was even more so because it was separated in three parts. Really, the first part was like a Cajun adventure in the Cajun swamps, and then the second part was the Nazi underground base, and then the third part was a spooky Dracula castle. But of course, the marketing only told you about the second part of the game, so that's what everyone thought it was. So imagine the disappointment of like, wait a minute, I have to slog through the Cajun swamps for like an hour or two before I get to, killing SS officers and stuff like that. And it was, I mean, it's pretty good. The first one was more of a maze type of game where you had to seek out your objectives within a sort of structured map, and it was a bit, it can be concerning if you didn't really know where to go or how to get there. And this was before you could press a button for a little guided icon or an arrow pointing you which direction. You
Oh
just had
yeah,
a basic idea
didn't have a
of
bunch
where
of
to go.
waypoints and stuff pointing you
Yeah,
everywhere.
you had like a basic idea where you could like sense the aura of your objective, and it just pointed you to like it's either to the west or to the north or something like that. And getting there on your own, you pretty much had to figure it the fuck out. This one, it's more linear gameplay where the levels are very linear. There's no exploration, there's no finding secret what
Are you
have
saying in
you.
the second game as opposed to the first game?
Yeah, in the second game it's linear.
Yeah, very. There's not a whole lot of not a whole lot of exploration. There's not like there's pickups. There's no collectible. There's not like a bunch of audio logs and stuff laying around.
Yeah.
There's not much to explore, sadly.
Yeah, it's more of a straightforward, get from point A to point B type of thing, which in some instances can be pretty refreshing, like a nice linear go through. It's more like I describe it as a really big 2-hour episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer type of thing. It's the setting, in my opinion, serves the character more because it's a modern setting as opposed to the other one. It was more of an old timey setting
Mhm.
taking place during like the first in the 1930s, then in the 1940s, and then I think the next one probably took place in like, I don't know if it was like a few decades later, but still it was old timey times. And the character of Rain really didn't fit that aesthetic
Yeah, I
because
could see that.
she's a modern punk rock girl.
Very,
And in
very
this
much.
one,
She's fuck the system, fuck this. Ugh, yeah,
yeah,
gag me with a spoon. Yeah, she's very about everything, which I kind of like about her character. She's
yeah,
uh yeah, she's like fuck the system, fuck the humans, fuck this, fuck you, fuck that. And at the same time, she's like, well, still got to do it though, so I might as well bitch and
yeah.
complain while kicking ass.
Yes, he's sort of like a reluctant anti-hero, which is, very refreshing. And in this one, because it's set in modern times, I guess the sort of near future, she fits right in. She doesn't stick out like a Thor thumb, aesthetically. She blends in with the visual aesthetic of the game very well. And because of that, I feel that this is a better served narrative. Now, one of the things that it does that we talked about prior is that you had asked me, it's like, well, who are all these characters? Were they in the prior installment? And no, they weren't. It pretty much starts off fresh in the middle of the story, and it expects you to know who all these people are. Now, there was supplemental material, like such as comic books and other tie-ins and stuff like this, but I don't think that those really, filled in the blank, so to speak. I think more of it's like it sets you in like you're supposed to know who these characters are already. But even then, you're like playing in the middle of the story, so it really doesnn't matter because they're all going to, hit their perils and pitfalls anyway. It's sort of like you're in the middle of an adventure and you're just going through. You just step in and get to
So it's a
kicking
sequel,
butt.
but also like a reboot. Like
Somewhat, I would,
because
yeah.
it kind of reinvented the first game, puts you in a new setting with the same character, but with a
Mhm.
huge, I mean, implied time skip because none of the characters are from the first game carried over, except for
Yeah.
the main antagonist, Kagan, who's I would assume is in the first game at least mentioned, right?
Well, if he is, I really don't remember the character. But then
Oh, okay.
they can pretty much imply with the setting that it's from that era. So it's sort of like, I guess that's the only actual tie-in with the first game, is that the opening cutscene, like one of the opening cutscenes where it introduces the main antagonist, it introduces you to this element
Hmm.
that sort of like, that this is the main bad guy, and he's from this era, which ties in with the time period of the first game. But other than that, you really don't need to play or know anything about the first game other to know anything, because it introduces you to everything right off the bat.
Honestly, I think that's kind of a good thing because it, the story in this game in BloodRayne 2 is pretty simple. So we'll get into like the beginning of it. So the game starts with Rain going to a party where she's tracking down one of the siblings of or one of the daughters of Kagan, who is, I guess, her vampire father who killed her mother and her mother's family. So now she's on a revenge quest to be like, well, I'm going to go kill daddy and I'm going to kill every single one of his family because he killed my side of the family. So she's
Mhm.
just kind of moody and mad about everything, which again fits her character. She's very punk rock, fuck the system. So she's going to go stick
Yeah,
to daddy, literally.
it's a very callback to 90s action B movie plots,
Hmm.
where you killed my father, therefore I'm on a quest for revenge. It's that sort of thing, because in one of the cutscenes we do see her, where the main character does kill one of, like, what we're supposed to imply is a father type figure to her.
Hmm.
And with it, her main quest is, is that her mother was murdered, so I guess she sort of imprinted on this, character that we're introduced to for like a brief second, that, oh, that's the father figure. So then therefore she's motivated, she's even more motivated to take this guy out, the big bad.
Okay, so her partner in crime in this is a member of the Brimstone organization. Is Brimstone mentioned at all in the first game?
It's probably like, it probably is, if I can remember correctly. It's like sort of this overlying, everyone's part of a secret organization. And I guess in this one, it's either the Brimstone Society or the Brimstone Group that is sort of, her quote unquote bosses, people who hire her out for contract work. And in this one, this is like one of her many adventures where she's going through, doing the deeds of this. And in this one, the character of Severin is her handler. He also acts as our sort of introduction to her world, as well as the narrator for tutorials. So
I
he
really like
serves
Severin. I feel like
yeah.
he's not overbearing. He's also I feel like his character is given to you just as much as you need it. Um, Severin is, as you mentioned, your handler, so he's on comms with you almost the entire game. But he's not like
Mhm.
one of those over the comms kind of characters where he's like, "Ooh, that's an exploder enemy. You're gonna want to use this move. Oh, Rain, look out! It's one of these guys. Oh, watch out! Look at this. Oh, you're gonna want to inspect this." He's not literally just Rain talks to him. He gives a little bit of banter. They maybe argue, talk about the mission, and then she goes on her way until she needs to talk to him again. The only time things come up is if she sees something that's important, and then he brings it up like, "Oh, hey, this is relevant to the mission. I noticed that you're in this area. Oh, hey, you're gonna need to ascend the clock tower here. This is probably your best route." He's very informative, not in the way like we'll compare it to like Fee from Legend of Zelda, where
Yeah.
she's just literally just expositing and shitting information at you and ignoring you. So I
Yeah.
really like the way Severin is introduced, and also
Yeah.
he's kind of good looking and he's got a good voice actor. So he's
Yeah,
nice when he's on screen.
you never hear Severin say, "Hey, listen, Rain." There's several parts in there where you hear like a big old explosion because of quote unquote action, and then he'll ask, "Well, what's going on?" And then she explains it, and then he'll like subtly through dialogue reveal a gameplay mechanic that you're supposed to use. One of the gameplay mechanics that I see in this game that happens over and over and over again is a sequence that I refer to as "fill the bucket,"
Yes. Okay. So
which
to
is
inform the audience,
okay.
Rain has a couple of things in her arsenal. She's a vampire assassin. She fights with bladed tonfas, which are like they're the underhand blade things, like kind of like cops use little cop beater sticks. You know what a tonfa is if you know what it is.
Yeah.
But they're big
Yeah.
and bladed, and once you get the upgrade on the bottom of those blades is also a flip up set of guns that she can use her own blood to shoot bullets with. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then the last addition is a grappling hook, which comes out of kind of nowhere. Just it's part of the tonfas, I guess. I don't know, but she shoots out like a grappling chain to enemies, and it's a cool idea. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Like on paper, it seems really neat. Like you have like melee, you got your little bit of range, and then you have your gap closer. You can like pull enemies to you. Maybe you can solve puzzles with it. Sounds cool. If you could swing around with it, it'd be even cooler. But this is a game from 2004, so I understand the limitations on the engine itself that they were running. So, great. Problem is the developers decided that it wasn't just going to be like a niche thing. They're going to make it like every single level, which is broken up into like multiple segments, at least once a level, you're going to have to, as Skinny Chad said, fill a bucket. And it's really, I think the first one you get introduced to is a fireplace where some enemies are running at you and you have to overload the fireplace by shooting them with the grappling hook and then throwing them into the fireplace. And of course, it's not a thing where you just do it once, because that would be too easy. We implemented a cool mechanic and we want you to use it. So we're going to make you do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Oh, and then as soon as you're done with this one, go around the hall and then you're going to need to throw people into a garbage truck. And then after that, throw them into a meat compactor. And then after that, throw them into fucking spikes and then throw them into fucking speakers and then throw them into a fucking machinery. It really wears its welcome very, very quickly.
Yeah, if it would happen like maybe 3 times, that would be great. But they try to implement it in nearly every single new setting, and sometimes even twice. Like I remember one where it's like any type of machinery or factory setting. There's one where it's like a series of torches that you have to put out by, throwing people onto them. And there's always some obstacle that the only way to clear it is to fill the bucket and make whatever is impeding your path explode, because that's the only way to do it. And it becomes tedious. And I can understand where this is where like a lot of people get frustrated. I understand you got very frustrated with this when I brought it up to you during the research and development phase of this episode.
More specifically, there is a segment in the game where you're ascending a vampire tower that's gonna shoot a big cloud over the city so vampires can walk around in the sunlight because, sunlight, vampires, obvious, do the math. So you have to ascend the tower, blow up the machinery, and, shut down the tower before it can shoot out this cloud. There is a segment where a brute enemy comes at you and he's got a big hammer, and it's, not a big deal. Like, you've dealt with them before. You can just easily dispatch him. No big deal. He's also got two guys that constantly run to back him up. Really not a big deal. Like, on paper, that sounds like an easy fight. The problem is the machinery in the room you got to throw the two guys at while dodging the big hulking guy. Well, why don't you just kill the big hulking guy? Because they decided that this one part of the game, they would put a gimmick into this thing, which they decided to do to make it more interesting for these fucking fill the bucket parts. So they decided that each of these machineries that you have to break are protected by an invulnerable shell that the hulking guy has to come over and smash. And guess what? Only one of his attacks will actually crack the shell, despite the fact that he does an overhanded AoE super Hulk smash hammer, literally over the head, double-handed smash with his hammer. That doesn't break them. No. Whenever he backhands it lightly with his hand, that'll crack open the shell for you. And guess what? It's RNG, so you better hope that he decides to do the little backhand thingy instead of just charging at you, repeatedly poking you with his hammer, or doing the overhead smash thing, which you can't dodge out of unless you perfect dodge, and then you're just going to slowly chip away your health. And he's faster than you, so you can't just walk around the room and eat enemies, because if he does the overhand smash thing, he's just going to knock the enemy out of your hand. This part really pissed me off, and put together, I was kind of annoyed with all of the fill the bucket segments up until then. I was like, ugh, this is annoying, this is annoying, this is annoying. One of the harder ones that I read online is the segment where you're in the club, where you have to throw 4 enemies simultaneously into the speakers, and there's only 4 enemies, and you have a limited amount of time to do it. It's a little bit frustrating because you are confined to that. The problem with the segment that I was having is it's glitchy. I literally have clips. I didn't pull them because I didn't feel like it, but I have clips of me fighting this guy, and I would he would hit me with his hammer, and I would just fly into the ceiling, and then get trapped onto a 2-pixel wide gap on the wall, and just be floating there, and not being able to get up or recover, while the enemy would just kill me, and I couldn't. And annoyingly, there's not just an escape reload checkpoint. There's a restart level or quit to main menu. So I have to wait till an enemy kills me so I can reload the checkpoint to try this. And at this point, I've failed, and I've failed, and I've failed, and I'm thinking, am I doing something wrong? So I kill the big guy, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's another solution for it. And they just fucking send another one. So it's not like there's no way to do this other than the way they want you to do it, and it's RNG based, and it's just overly frustrating. I actually had to just go and enable God mode, because I was at the point where I'm like, I'm not having fun with this game anymore. It sucked away all the enjoyment out of it. I don't even want to play this game anymore. So I just turned on God mode, and I left it on for a little bit after there, because I was just like, I'm just done with this. I'm not having fun anymore. It got to the point where I was enjoying the game again. Once it got towards the end of the level and you're actually chasing down Kagan and you're in the vampire apocalypse, it kind of got a lot. I like that part. It just this one wall. It combined all of the worst parts of the game in just a repeated one room segment. And aside from that, that was my really big gripe on the game. The parkour is a little clunky. The combat's a little clunky. Everything's a little clunky. But that segment just was fucking broken. And I was like, no, I'm just going to cheat. I'm just going to cheat. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Tell me how you really feel. It's I understand. I completely understand that. That's one of those things where I guess they sort of got a little bit too ambitious with their mechanic. And probably, threw in too many, variables that probably didn't need to be there. And I totally can understand people either skipping that scene in its entirety or what have you. It is there are some parts that are very frustrating. How do you feel that the parkour and the acrobatics, how do you feel that was implemented in the game? Did it take you out of it, or was it because there were some parts where I would do the acrobats and then it would just take me out of the game because there's either some element where I had to do something and then I was just stuck on the left. Okay, what am I supposed to do to get to this part? Or there was this one part where I was in a shipping yard and then, there's a trailer and you can pull down the trailer with your grappling hook. And then I said, okay, I hop on it. And then what? And I didn't realize that, there's a staircase like on the other side of the wall to get you to the upper part of the level that there's a staircase right there. Then why the hell am I dragging down this trailer for? It's like, little things like that can get really irritating. That I think is more of a design flaw than anything else. The game's not perfect, but what it does well, it does well. If you're really good with the combat and stuff like this and the grappling hook, and you're very practiced in that, levels like the speaker level, you can get through those in a snap, because
Mhm.
there are some times where when you get in the zone combat wise, and you're really good with you really get used to the controls, it's a very fun beat 'em up, and I would
Yeah,
play
once
through
you
it
get used
just
to
to
it,
have
yes, you're
fun.
right. It's
Yeah.
really fun once you understand like the timing on things. You can't just
Mhm.
button mash. Like if you just repeatedly just do the basic combo, an enemy will just like even though it's not a mechanic, they will just pull out a perfect block from you, and then they'll just hit you with a melee and start staggering you, even though you were just hitting them. And it's like, okay, so you have to learn how to dodge, you have to learn how to use your guns accordingly. Once you get the shotgun, it's really good because the shotgun almost always inflicts a knockdown, so you can just like bang bang, knock down 2 enemies, deal with 1 enemy real quick, and then clean up later. There's a lot of variation in combat too, other than just running in and just stabbing them. So like you said, once you get used to it, it's really well done. To answer your question
Yeah.
before you get too far away from it, how is the parkour implemented and how do I feel about it?
Yes.
I feel like for the most part, it was fine. If it had like a true like rework where it controlled better, I feel like the parkour segments would be good and fun. So there is essentially like 3 parkour obstacles, I guess. You have the flagpoles, which you will grab and spin around to like swing yourself to another one. You have
Mhm.
pipes, which you will usually like climb like a rope, and then you have like rails, which you will grind. Those are like your 3 main like parkour elements.
Yeah.
When they work, I feel like they work really well. The problem is, since it's they're trying to do a lot with it, it is a little clunky sometimes. Like if you're sliding down a rail and then try to stop, sometimes you'll just literally start standing on the rail and just have no momentum anymore, and then you can just like weirdly walk up it, and if you try to go down, you instantly start sliding. It seems like everything is kind of like it functions one way, and there's not a lot of wiggle room for it. A really good example is the little flagpoles. If you go to jump on a flagpole and swing yourself forward, you have to press only the forward button. The back button won't spin you backwards or slow your momentum down. It'll just stop you immediately and make you hang down from the thing. If you hit the left or the right thing, you immediately stop going forward and switch the direction you're doing. And if you're holding that button, you'll just keep switching the directions instead of just holding the left button and swinging left instead. It's not very intuitive how the swinging controls work, or the turning controls on the pipes where you try to jump from pipe to pipe. If the control scheme got a little bit reworked, I feel like it'd be great, because you can see it here on the screen now. Rayne's doing a little bit of the parkour, and it looks cool and it's fun. You got the parts where you like do little wall jumps. I really like it. It's just also clunky, and it's implemented so often that if you don't like the clunk to it and having to like stop, switch directions, jump, okay, stop, switch directions, then it can feel like a complete break in the flow of stuff, and there's no longer people talking, there's no longer fighting, and then you're just like, oh, I fucked that jump up again. So, to answer you shortly, I feel like it was implemented well, but it doesn't have a good control scheme to back it up.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. There are sometimes, yeah, like I said, if you miss the beat, you get taken out of it, but as far as keeping up with the momentum of the story and the gameplay, yeah, it could have been polished a little bit better. Like even implementing like the grappling hook in it somehow. Like in this one, the grappling hook is strictly used for combat. And I guess this was before like games like Spider-Man or Assassin's Creed hit the scene and showed that you could do much more like travel wise with the grappling hook, which was, pretty much the whole point of the grappling hook. But I think this is during the time of Mortal Kombat, when they figure the only thing a grappling hook is good for is impaling enemies and then using them for directional tossing. It's like a directional grab.
Yeah, and just unfortunately, I feel like it becomes monotonous because of how often you have to do it. If it was an option, it'd be fine, but there's so much that they make you do over and over that sometimes it feels like a chore. And
Hmm.
this isn't a negative, even though it's added right with negatives. The game is very long. Like, I didn't realize how long this game was. I looked it up on like how long to beat, and it's like it's like 9 hours. I'm like, yeah, that's 9 hours if you like don't die at all and you don't fuck up your jumps and you play in like one quick session and you don't take a bunch of bathroom breaks or smoke. Like, yeah, it's 9 hours on paper, but I kept like progressing, and once the world ended, I thought the game was over. And then it's like, oh nope, there's like 4 more levels after this. Have fun. And I'm glad that happened. I just wasn't expecting it to be so long. And whenever it kept throwing at segments that I didn't enjoy, it really took away from, oh, I really like how long and good this game is.
Yeah, yeah, it does give you a lot, and the environments are pretty, diverse. They're all modern city, metropolitan areas, but a lot of them they
With the
have their own
exclusion of the
spin to
sewer
it.
level.
Yeah, yeah,
The sewer level
the
was pretty mid. The sewer level, they introduced the suicide bombers at you, and I'm glad they didn't keep throwing them at you for the rest of the game, because it would have been annoying
yeah.
dealing with it inside of Kagan's like tower or whatever. It would have been annoying dealing with suicide enemies the entire game. Um, they throw suicide enemies at you mostly as a gimmick to like, hey, solve puzzles with bombs.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
um, I feel like one of the only actual boss fight up until this point. You have like elite enemies and like mini bosses and like enemies that can do like parkour and have a big health bar. But the only boss up until this point is the ancient vampire Slez, which is in the sewer system of the game. Um, I really wasn't paying attention to why Slez is down there. It seems like it's like a birthing canal. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? But once you get to Slez, you have to beat Slez, and something that I like and I dislike about this game is it doesn't like really ever tell you what's going on. Okay, so when you get into the room with Slez, the boss fight, you see an NPC like pull a lever, which upsets Slez for some reason. Then
Yeah, it
Slez
releases.
it doesn't tell
Yeah,
you though. It doesn't. It's not like there's dialogue. It's not like Severin comes over and tells you exactly what's
yeah,
going. There's a lot of having to figure it out that you have to go on,
yeah.
and
It
it like
doesn't make Yeah, it doesn't
so
make
the guy
sense
flips
where.
the guy flips the switch, and
Mhm.
Slez gets upset for some reason. It doesn't show you
Well,
exactly what, and then she throws a bomb
yeah.
at it, and then once you like look around and pull the context clues, the lever lets in some of the toxic water, and she's not
Mhm.
happy about that, so she attacks whoever lets in the water, which cool, and that becomes part of the boss fight. But this is a combination of timing and filling the bucket, and it just becomes like a tedious boss fight because you have to wait until Slez throws a guy at you, then hit the lever, make sure she's still in her animation of being hurt from the thing, because if you do the water too early and she throws the guy at you, she'll recover from it and cover her weak spot, and then she'll just drag out the fight. The fight could take like less than 30 seconds if you do it right and there's not bad RNG on your part.
Mhm.
But though it's not like you can just keep the lever open and just keep it going. It's got like a soft cooldown to it. There's a lot of like things working against you in the fight, even though it's really simple. And I feel like it's not explained to you other than the tiny little cutscene of a guy pulling a lever and she throwing a bomb at you. Severin's like, well, she's got tough skin. You're gonna need to blow her up. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why you keep throwing bombs at me. I get the gimmick of this level is bombs.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it didn't make sense. Like, why would one of the NPCs, implement that? Because that's like counterproductive. It's sort of like it's showing you like they wrote themselves into a corner and had to do something to introduce that mechanic. The It's in this game, pretty much all water is toxic to vampires. So even if you get into water, you burn, you lose health and stuff like that. So it's sort of like a vampire thing is why they do that. But as of why they would have that in there, it doesn't make sense story wise, but game mechanic wise, it's like it's an added mechanic to, I guess, make it more difficult to otherwise just throwing bomb guys back at her would be too simple.
Yeah, so they have to put in like some obstacles for it, and I feel like that's I'm giving a lot of credit to it because this is 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I feel like that would have been fine, but you wouldn't get away with that now, where it's just like this isn't a boss fight. It's a list of check boxes I have to make to make sure the boss can lose health. It's not like I can actually do anything else. It's just it's worse than like Legend of Zelda, where you have to do something 3 times and the boss dies. Like, it's just, I didn't like the Slez boss fight, even though it was like it looks cool. It was a nice staple. The problem is, I have with it in the story is it's such just a like a passing thing. You're just running through the sewer and you're like, oh hey, ancient vampire, boom, 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 okay, I killed you, bye, and then you just keep going. It's never really brought up again. You see Slez later on, like a picture of her, but that's about it. There's not nothing. Nobody cares that she's dead. Nobody's mad at you.
Yeah, it feels like there's more story there that could have been explored or expanded the universe a little bit, and they just just rode right past it. Like, like underneath the city there's this ancient, gigantic vampire, and and other than she's just there, we don't really know anything about it, and it's not implemented. They bring her up in the story like later on, like, oh, so and so killed Slez, and the other characters really don't care. It's like a passing thing when it could have been a deeper lore thing that could have explained the diversity of the vampire mythos, and really brought a lot to the story. But it was just like a missed storytelling opportunity. Maybe they had more to the story and they were just simply cut for time, because like you said, the game is really long. Replaying it, I forgot how long it was. I thought it was just 2 hours, but playing it now, it's like, god damn, this game just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah,
Even with
which
like,
isn't to its detriment,
yeah.
because the story keeps you interested the whole time. Like, like you might be annoyed with this mechanic and that mechanic, as we mentioned, but the whole time you're just like, okay, I'm gonna get through it because I really want to know what's going on next. I want to see more of Ephemera. I want to see more of Feral. Okay, so why does Kagan have crystals in him? Okay, let's go. I want to learn some more.
Yeah, and it's good, but like I said, like I described it to you, it's like a 2 hour episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer where, the story, it's like it's this, end of the world. It's like cinematic in some kind of way, but it's not. The stakes don't really feel that big, even though the world ended and all that stuff. Technically, it feels like this is more like a very special episode of a vampire show. It doesn't, it doesn't feel that impactful, but still, it's a fun adventure nonetheless.
I get what you mean. Despite the fact that literally the world ends, it does kind of just feel contained.
Hmm.
You never see what's happening. You never hear. You never experience. The only human you talk to ever is Severin. Like, he's the only and he's apparently not even human. He's like apparently like I don't know. They mention at the end of the game that he's like not fully human, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what that means. You guys not gonna tell me. I don't guess it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
eh,
It doesn't
eh,
explain if he's either a ghoul or a thrall or something of that sort, but he very
is
well
he an
could have been like,
undead? Is he a revenant?
yeah,
Like, what's going on here? Like, is he homunculus? Is he an android? Who knows? Doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah. He's
All we know about
clearly.
him really is in his past, in the past of both of them from our perspective. Years ago, one of the sisters, Ephemera, she's like a shadowy vampire
Mhm.
thing, doesn't tell you why she has darkness powers, doesn't tell you why she could turn into smoke. I guess that's just her breed of vampirism. She just has magic shadow powers. Cool. Not moving on. Apparently, in their past, Severin and her were together. Who knows how seriously? Were they engaged? Did they get married and divorced? Who knows? Who cares? That's all the story we get to it. And honestly, it didn't need to be any deeper than that, and I'm fine with it. They're just like, he's just like, yeah, I don't want to talk about my ex. I'm like, makes sense. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. And I, filling in the blanks, I imagine that he was probably one of her subjects or her thrall or something like that. just one of her servants or something like that, and that's my head canon is that that's what that was. The other than that, there's it's like something just to titilize and to add stakes to it, so that way you're more, it feels like it fleshes out the world, so that way everything is more connected, and that way, it gives Severin stakes in the story as well, that you're part of this bigger picture, and I think that's done really well.
So we mentioned the Shroud Tower and the world ending. That happens pretty, like, surprisingly kind of late in the story. Like, it feels like things are coming to a close. You just killed, defeated Feral in a fight, and then you get to the tower, or to the top of the tower, you kind of decommission all the batteries, and then it's like, all right, sweet, and then the cloud still just goes and still poops out anyway. And just apparently, despite the fact that we blew up a bunch of machinery in there, it was still enough to pump out a cloud big enough to cover almost the entire world. And it's almost done comically, where it's just like the next day, and you and Severin are in the park, and he's like, yeah, so it's kind of crazy how the world just ended in like 6 hours, right? It's like, what? You're not going to show any of that? You're not going to tell me what happened? Like, there's no news stories, no cutscene, no vampire hordes running through the city, not. All right. It's just like, Lois, this is worse than the time the world ended.
Yeah, in one of the cutscenes, I think the thing is that Feral, her tower was like one of 4 towers in the city, and as far as we know, in this the city encompasses the world, so that's pretty much the barrier. As far as anything outside of the world, it doesn't say, it doesn't give you any inkling of what happens outside of the world, because the city is the world. And when you take out that tower, even though it's still pumping out stuff, there you can see in the background there are like 3 other towers, so it's like one of 4 towers. And as of why all the hullabaloo was to get to this one tower specifically, it's a neat thing. I don't know. I don't know how to best describe it. I guess it's just one of those, well, how did we not know about the other 4 ones, or were they not implemented? It's one of those things that no matter what, you're going to lose anyway. So just just have fun doing this one thing. Of course, I can't imagine having.
I think we were only going after the one we did because Feral was there.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason we went after that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other ones were probably done in secret or whatever. That there's certain ways to write it out, but it's very clear that no matter what happened, you won the battle but lost the war. That was always going to happen no matter what. And it was rather fun, but it was interesting that how once the shroud goes up, the entire world just changes overnight quickly, and everything just goes to shit immediately, where bad shit starts happening, and nature and whatever it is just changes. Like as you go through the zoo level, everything just changes magically overnight, literally, as the world becomes eternal night.
Yeah, and I like I said, it's a little comical. I wish they would have like extended how quickly. Like, it would have been better if it was like a fall of like 32 hours or something, like a little bit of time, instead of just being like, well, can't believe can't believe we just walked down that tower and the world's already over. That sucks. I don't mind it, because it keeps the story moving. It doesn't hang a lot. It's like, okay, well, you failed that mission, keep going. And like Severin's even like, well, we could just like retire. We could find like a different part of the world, like maybe like it's chill maybe. And she's like, no, we're going to go kill my dad. And Severin's like, oh, all right, back to the work.
Yeah, this leads to one of my favorite parts of dialogue in the game, is when you go into the zoo and you discover a new enemy type, which is the bugs.
Okay, so the zoo part is really cool. Like I do like it. It's the first level after the world ends. You're just in like whatever Central Park version of this town is. You're just in Central Park, and you happen to have to cross through the zoo. And it starts out pretty quiet. You just got like guys in goop attached to the walls, and they're all twitchy and shit. And then Rayne's like, hey, what kind of vampirism causes this? And Severin's like, sorry, normally I'm your answer for everything. I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you playing a joke
I wrote
on me?
it down. I wrote it down. This was how it was. It was, she walks up to him and then she says, Severin, what makes a corpse twitch? And he says, I don't know, Rayne, what makes a corpse twitch? Like he's trying to answer a riddle or something. And she's like, it's not a joke. I have this thing in front of me. What's going on right here? What type of vampirism causes this? And it's such a funny little thing. It's like it's moments like that draw me back into the story. And it's like, okay, I'm here for the long run now, because this is so endearing and fun. It still has fun every now and then, aside from the thing. And one of the things that as that dialogue brought me in, something that kind of brought me out of it was when you go to the office building, and for some reason the NPC, the enemy dialogue for some reason is turned up like 200%. And you keep running, guys, like everybody has like the deep New York accent. They're all I got my super shoes.
Oh my God, yes. Everyone is just talking about their super shoes and talking about like, we're looking for a hot, red-headed, big-titted dampier. There ain't like 30 of them. And they just keep saying these lines over and over, and it's comical. They're just like Joker running at you, just constantly just quipping at you, and it's just every one of them. They're just like, they look like they're like they're a bunch of metalheads, turned vampire,
Mad Max type villains, and they're coming at you, and every single one has like some variant of dialogue where they're referring to super shoes, like, oh, I got superpowers, I got my super shoes on. And that I hear that line of dialogue over and over and over again as I'm passing through the level. And it's, it's rather, it weighs on you after a while. It's like, why did they choose till now to turn up the dialogue? Because before then, you really don't engage in any kind of dialogue with the villains, they're just fodder that are thrown at you. And then through this one, it's like all of a sudden, yeah.
Or whenever you kill them, they're like, "You got me." Ugh. Yeah, they don't talk much.
There's like, background, like maybe before you storm a scene, there's probably some background dialogue, but other than that, they really don't talk. And then when they do talk, they're, oh, my super shoes.
I don't remember exactly when they're introduced. I think it's whenever I think they're Farrell's guys.
Yeah, something like that. It's when Farrell decides to storm, she gets revenge and she decides to storm the
That's kind of a big plot that I feel like wasn't really used well. So when Rayne is taking down the Shroud Tower, as I mentioned, we're there taking out Farrell. She's defending the tower. We can't really beat her because she's like unbeatable. So we just destroy the tower while running away from her. And once we do that, the tower kind of explodes, separates us, and initiates a cutscene in which we're buried underneath some rubble and stuff. And Farrell is kind of okay. And then Kagan and Ephemera show up with a couple of other nameless vampire guys. And it's surprise, surprise, Kagan's not dead. We thought he died in between the first and the second game. Don't know when, don't know where, don't know how. Apparently we thought he died. He did die, actually, turns out. And his son, Xerx, necroed him. Again, not talked about. It's just kind of hand-wavy story stuff. It's like, this is what happened, moving on. This is what happened, moving on. And I'm fine with that. It doesn't need to be like a whole novel or whatever. So Xerx reses Kagan, shoves something in him called the Vesper Shard, and now he has the power to control the sun sometimes. Cool. So he's mad because the Shroud Tower was destroyed, even though it was completely successful. And then he is lambasting her, and then Ephemera stabs Farrell, kind of betraying her and being like, ooh, you shouldn't have trusted me, dumbass, and then throws her off the tower. I guess she forgets that her sister is a souped up super vampire, and I don't know why for a second Ephemera thought that would kill her. It's not like she cut off Farrell's head. She didn't like bisect her, cut her into a bunch of pieces. She just stabbed her once in her vampire back, and then was just like throws her off of there, sort of like Heihachi from the Tekken series. He's just like, That doesn't. That's I
Yeah.
know that's not going to kill you. I'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah, it is sort of like one of those, like, the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense, type of thing. And I guess it was just to throw in drama, just to have these characters interact. I guess it was to flesh out the world a little bit more, to make these characters that they're not just fighting you, but they're also fighting each other, and there's a pecking order. And
Yeah, they
I
want
think is
control
that,
of Daddy's
yeah,
kingdom.
yeah. What I think happened though is it sort of, it's like, because then later on in the level, when you're in the office level, Farrell and her goons are actually fighting. So you're going like as characters, as these NPCs and cannon fodder. They're actually fighting each other.
And that's what I
And
was trying to bring up. I feel like that's underutilized. I feel like they could have done a little bit more with Rain being like, okay, hey, you wanna fight back, like team up a little bit. But nope, she's like, oh, hey, Farrell is fucking things up. I guess I'll just fuck them both up.
yeah, yeah, because the tower is inconsequential because they still get the shroud up anyway. It's just her tower is down, and there's a pretty good excuse because one of the other daughters, which is BloodRayne, came in and fucked it up. So she's not completely faultless, but it's implemented for quote unquote drama. So, and also I think they sort of needed Farrell there so that way they could implement the new weapon, which was the sun gun, to show how powerful it is by having a character as powerful and unbeatable as Farrell get one
Just literally
shot.
one shot. Yeah.
Mhm.
That what the first time we see it as we're coming towards the tower on some helicopters, but it's not really explained what it is. It could have just been like a gap in the shroud that like showed some sunlight, whatever. But yeah, the first time we really get an exact demonstration, Farrell's running up and then just go deleted.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I busted out laughing at that scene because she's brought up as a super duper big bad, invincible,
She's fast, she's
character.
strong, she apparently
Yeah,
can heal from blade wounds really easily. Yeah,
yeah,
no big
she's like,
deal.
and then she gets out there and then she gets one shotted like right away, and it's almost funny. It's those little, it's like the what makes a corp twitch moment where it's this, you have like a little bit of cheeky fun, cheesy fun in between your brutal scenes, so that way it's not 100% grim dark all the time. And I like that. I felt it was a nice touch, as Garfield would say.
Yeah. She does get one shot, and it's by Zerx, who is kind of controlling he built some sort of cannons that will part the shroud and make the sun kind of magnify itself, localized wherever it wants. So it's essentially a targeting laser for a sun orbital bombardment.
Mhm.
Really neat, actually, it's a pretty cool thing. And as I mentioned, it's just kind of hand wavy. They have a thing
Yeah.
called the Vesper Shard that can do this. So
Yeah.
you got to stop him, because not only does he have an army of vampires and a shroud that can make them do whatever they want, he can also smite down anyone that happens to turn against him instantly. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of a big threat. Now Rain finds out that Kagan is alive. She's totally reinvigorated. She's like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna kill Farrell again, because apparently it didn't work the first time. Oh, never mind, she's dead. Gonna go kill Ephemera, because we don't like her. She's kind of been the actual antagonist the entire game, which I feel like they could have used her a little bit better. Like, Ephemera has the ability to kind of just materialize, and she the only time she really uses it is to tease Rain in the subway a little bit.
Yeah, and that's not really a part that's like a part that's a cutscene. That's not really a play mechanic that we're shown. It would have been neat if they had the scene where you chase her through the subway and then she you hear these bits of dialogue as you're chasing her down. But
Right,
that
and the only
doesn't
way to see her
happen.
is with your vampire vision that you can toggle on. They could have made something out of it, but I
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
they kind of underplayed Ephemera. They really played her up in all the cutscenes and stuff, but as far as fighting her, it was really underwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of was because you just knock stuff down, and you just like get rid of all of her, shadow zones, so that way she's then vulnerable to,
And as
and
far as the
it's
fight goes, she fights almost exactly like one of the like souped up kestrels. She will like hit you with a couple of blade attacks, and then she'll do like the diving spiral thing, which will almost one shot you even through your guard. So all you have to do is just stab, 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 side dodge, stab, 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 side dodge, stab, stab,
mhm.
stab, side dodge. Oh, I have enough for my 1/1 ability, which is like my super knives, and then you just stab, 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 dodge, stab, stab, stab. She's kind of was like the worst fight of the game, and it's sad because the one thing they did to make her like interesting is like you said, you just hey, here's some totems, go destroy them before you can actually do any damage to her. You can do damage if you want, but she's just gonna heal in like 1 second. So
Yeah, yeah.
just run around, avoid her and the minions, just stab them, kill the rocks, grapple one thing down. All right, now you can kill her in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, it's a bit underwhelming. It could have probably been fleshed out a little bit more. But I guess that, at this time you're probably already in the game like 4 hours, so I can understand that they'd want to rush through that. The
Yeah,
one
I
of
just
the
wish she had like. I wish she wasn't just like. The problem is like Slez is a whole like room fight. The last fight of the game, it has a little bit more going on to it. When you fight Zerks, it's a whole big deal. Whenever you fight Ephemera and Feral, like Feral is just running at you and you just run away from her. And then whenever you
Yeah,
fight Ephemera, it's just, oh, hey, I'm just a
yeah,
Kestrel. I'm just going to do Kestrel moves at you. Or one of the other
yeah,
Dampiers. Like, I'm going to.
mhm.
They could have given her gun. I don't know. They could have made her do something. The only thing Ephemera had, like, different is that whenever you were attacking her, she could do, like, that shadow step and reposition herself to get iframes. That was about it.
Yeah, the feral each one had a sort of unique mechanic to it. Like feral was, invincible and you had to, damage the environment. And this one it was sort of, the same way, but it was sort of underwhelming, like you had said. One of the things that I liked was when you went up against Xerxes in his meat suit.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was probably
interesting because
that was I think probably one of the highlights of the game. Honestly, I'll let you go ahead. Why was it
yeah,
interesting for
that
you?
for me, that was sort of like one of those like how like you've seen those videos with the pimple popping? That's how I describe that fight scene. It's pretty much pimple pop or squeezing pimples because that's what you're doing. That's how you defeat him. You defeat him by squeezing his little pimples because he's got like this meat suit and it's got like vulnerable areas. And then you have to pop the caps off, which is like you're clawing off a scab. And then you have to pop the pimple by using your grappling hook to then hit that vulnerable
The
area
one
and
time it's
pull
used in
out a
combat.
little like some type of what is it like a cyst. You have to pull a cyst out of his body to to take it, and it's it's gross in the right kind of way, and it's pimple pop the level. Pimple pop the boss fight, and it's hilarious.
Now, I was still in a little bit of a dour mood while doing this part of the fight because the segment before it was just kind of a hassle. Getting through the
Yeah.
tower was just kind of annoying. So once I got
Hmm.
to him, I was just like, all right. I walked around the arena and I found one of those vampire layers which give you the full health. And once I walked out of the lair, I realized, oh, the boss can't get in here. He can't shoot me. He can't do anything. All he can do is send like minions at me, and all the minions can do is walk up to me. I hit the eat button and get free health, free ammo, and free rage. So like, what is this boss fight? All I do is just camp in here and just wait till the guys run at me, give me ammo, peek my head out, shoot the missiles at me from my newly acquired missile launcher ability, blow up in his thingies, just sit there for a couple more minutes, wait till people... Like, I just cheese the boss fight. Like, I imagine if you're out there actually fighting him, dodging the sun rays, watching him smash you and shooting you with blast, it'd be pretty fun fight. But I was just like, I'm just going to stand in this room. I'm just going to wait till he gives me bullets, walk out... And I did it way longer than I needed to because I didn't realize that once you get him to half, that means you blew open all of his caps, and now you have to actually go out there and rip out his little eyeball thingies. So I was like, I was just in there shooting him for an extra like 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm like, I'm not doing any damage.
Yeah.
So if I would have been
Yeah.
actually playing, but I really just didn't want to do the fight over again. Like I already died twice in the fight, and I was like, I'm done with this. So
Yeah, I can understand that.
the fight was good. I think it's the best boss fight in the game. It's actually a boss fight. It has a whole like 2 stages to it. There's a boss fight arena, completely new mechanics, new enemy, and he sends minions at you, so you have health and ammo. It's like an actual proper boss fight. And I feel like it's definitely like the highlight of the game is the Zerx boss fight because it's really well done. You're doing it on the top of this skyscraper as he's parting the clouds, shooting god beams at you, and he's just in this big flesh mech. Really, really cool fight.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And then the game, of course, you do the end boss fight, which is, it's pretty standard fare boss fight. It is nothing exceptional about finally taking out the big bad. It's just it's like by then you're all powered up and you have everything ready to go, and you just take them out like you would anyone else. And
you have more powers than you need to in this game, which is nice. Like I don't know if there's like 2 harder difficulties or something like that or whatever. I feel like the game is already challenging enough because enemies, if you play sloppy, enemies will and can kick the fuck out of you. They will repeatedly beat the shit out of you if you mispress things, if you don't dodge well, if you're not positioned. You could just lose to a group of 4 regular guys because you can't get in a block. So I really do like that because it keeps combat constantly interesting even when you're fighting just regular dudes.
Yeah, and they're not completely like vulnerable. Like if you have like a group of 4, it's easy to take them out if you just do the feed mechanic and then do a quick kill and insta kill. But some of them can have weapons where the quick feed thing, the grab won't implement, and then they'll
you can only grab them from behind because if you grab them in the front, they'll throw you off and then get a free hit on you.
Yeah, and if they have like blunt weapons or swords of some type, then they're able to defend themselves from the front. But if they just have regular guns or their fists, you can just take them out like super quick. But then there's that thing where if you do that, then you can't really feed off of them or replenish your ammo. So it's like a nice balance.
I really did like that mechanic. Like after the first 20, 30 minutes of the game, I was like, are you kidding me? There's not like health pickups. There's not like fucking energy. Okay, I just have to stop fighting constantly to eat guys. And I'm like, actually, I really do like this because there's 3 resources you have to keep manage of if you're going to like be a really good player at this game. You have to manage your health, obviously, because if you hit 0, you die. You want to make sure you have health. You also want to make sure you have health because if you run out of bullets, then your bullets will eat your health, and you can only use so much of your health before your gun is completely out of ammo and you're almost out of health. So you have to manage your bullets because you don't want to use your bullets or you use your health for bullets, and vice versa. Then lastly, you have to manage your rage, which is gained separately and only through combat. Shooting enemies with your gun really barely gives rage, and feeding off of enemies to give health gives no rage. So you really have to decide, am I just going to stab him, build up rage slowly? Am I going to feed on him and then quick kill him to get the rage instead of health? Or am I going to feed off of him to get bullets? Or am I going to do the full feed for the health bar? So even though it's like simple on paper, I really like how much of a core mechanic rain feeding is because you have to manage all 3 of your resources just by feeding. There's no pickups, and I really like that.
Yeah, that is interesting. There's like none of that, none of health stuff around you. Like I said, there were no collectibles and stuff. It's just linear game. It's just straight linear combat and then boss fights and acrobatic scenes and stuff like that. It's a nice mix of it. It could use less fill the bucket mechanics as those get old fast.
Honestly, I feel like if there was just a unofficial patch for this game, what it should do is fix the zones where you can get infinitely stuck, and then just simply make it so all fill the buckets are reduced to 1 or 2.
Yeah, that would be a fun little thing, so that way and it's, on, and you can like scale it on like harder difficulties where you have to do it like 3 or 4 times. But there's sometimes where, it just pulls you out of the experience. And it's fun to get lost in this little world where, you're a vampire doing cool vampire shit in this world fighting other vampire thing. It's a fun thing. It's the world of BloodRayne is really fun in a way because she is this, iconic character. And stepping into the shoes of BloodRayne is it's really thrilling because, I mean, her in the era that she came out in, I think it was her and Laura Croft were like the top badass babes, the double dual wielding women of the video game world. And she's was the sort of the more naughty version because they would have nude pinups of her in magazines and stuff. And I think they actually had like a nude pinup in, I think it was either Penthouse or Plate. One of the official magazines at the time actually had, BloodRayne pinup, and that was interesting and fun. So she's sort of this bad girl of the gaming world, that you warn your parents about and stuff like this, and it was fun to do that.
Yeah, for the people watching the YouTube video, you can see Rain in the middle of us right here walking around. Her outfit is very skimpy. It's like a bunch of leather. It's black and red. And over here on this screen right here, I mean, like even the like official art for it, she's wearing this dress from the first mission, and like it's classy, but it's also skimpy. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cleavage right here. It's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice promotional material.
So did you play in juggy mode?
I don't know what that is. That sounds awesome.
In one of the cheats is, of course, because, I mean, a lot of games, of course, had the cheat systems, but
Like the
then
old school cheat
this,
codes where
yeah.
this one had a weird. Okay, how do you find the cheat codes? Because like in other games, there's a way to find them in the game without like disk data mining. Like the cheat codes for the God mode is like Lux, Advid, Jode, Toad, Squid mode. Like it's like just a bunch
Yeah.
of fucking random words that have
Yeah. Yeah.
no bearing on each other, and it's just like a sequence of crap. Like for example, the old like Turok 2, the Seeds of Evil. I remember the ultimate cheat for that game, and I will never forget it. It's all one word, behold, oblivion is at hand. It's just one word, behold, oblivion is at hand, and it unlocks literally everything in the entire game. It's like the
Yeah.
master unlock cheat. How people found that
Yeah.
out, I don't know. I just
Well, this was from an era when the developers knew that you were going to cheat, and they actually implemented cheating into the gameplay somehow. I think it was either Duke Nukem had a scene where if you get to a certain area and you could only get there by cheating, and there was a special message saying, you can only see this if you're cheating. There's like secluded areas. There's like areas. I think it was Postal 2 was famous for this, where they would implement cheat codes, and once you used them, there would be a message saying, like it's like the cheat code is I'm a cheating piece of shit, or I'm a cheating cheater who cheats. And you get that, and you just get the hilarious, cheat messages and stuff like this. And it sort of, you can like play through cheating, but then it sort of incentivizes you to play without cheating, because then you unlock like everything honestly and stuff like this, and it's more rewarding. But the system is still there for people who just want to dick around. And with this one, I think what the master cheat is like something like want this taint reality, or want this dark reality taint queef. And you up to that, and then has like all the modes, the God mode, unlimited rage, unlimited health, unlimited blah blah blah. And one of them is juggy mode. If you remember during the first scene, when Rain walks, she's not walking down the stairs, and it's not a cut, it's like a cut scene, but it's an in-game cinematic cut scene. And you can see her walking, and you can actually see her jiggling, because that's another thing this game has, is jiggle physics, which was sort of in vogue at the time. and you can implement juggy mode, which upgrades her to double D's. So she actually has large breasts in this thing, and whenever I played, I always turn on juggy mode all the time, and that was sort of the thing at the time where you give her like it makes her knockers like huge.
No, but I will definitely check that out because surprisingly looks pretty good in this game.
Yeah, I mean,
Not like
there's
overly
like
angular, which is nice.
yeah, there's like a lot of stuff like with costumes and stuff like this. You get all these fun costumes here and there. There's this one called BloodRayne where she's like all black and she like has all this stuff in her. And then there's like another one, it's like schoolgirl rain. And then there's another one where she's just like in a suit of like night armor, like Scooby-Doo, which is silly.
Cool.
And then there's other various ones that are just different colored variations of the nightgown, where it's in red, blue, green, and then there's like a dragon pattern, which is fun. But I find myself, my favorite costumes are pretty much the nightgown, because I really like that one. And then the BloodRayne character. And then I think there's like a cowgirl Rain where she's got 6 shooters and she's got like a cowboy hat on. And instead of the regular blades, there are, these big old Bowie knives that she's got that are really
They
cool.
just make those skins for fun?
Yeah, those are like in-game things, and I don't think that they're like you don't earn them through rewards and stuff.
They're just all
pretty
cheats?
Yeah, they're all cheats
Cool.
that they just throw in there. And
I miss like classic cheat codes. Like I remember going to the store as a kid and like looking forward to those little cheat code books where you could just go and like look at games you've never even heard of and be like, oh, this is the unlock, like big head mode for GTA.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sweet. I will never remember this code, but like it's cool that they have a whole book for this. That's back before the internet, and you could just go to like CheatCC or cheatcodes.com or anything, like you could just look it up or a YouTube video or just pull up a spreadsheet of every single one.
Yeah, and it was like it was just for fun. It was just like a developer Easter egg or something like that. It was put in the game to like sort of like I guess to add to the gameplay, and that was like a ton of fun. And it's just it's so good and unique. And I like these extra skins and these extra outfits and stuff. They're really cool too. It's like I remember one where like the schoolgirl one. She has like this. It's a very Harry Potter-esque type of school uniform, and she has this backpack that's like a penguin, and her knives, and instead they're like they're like ninja swords, they're katanas.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got like a one on her chest. She's got like a cell phone hanging on there, and it's and she looks like a little teenage like schoolgirl, and it's a lot of fun. She's got like the knee-high socks and stuff, and it's really cute.
Can you do that and booby mode?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
The juggy
so the
mode
game has
extends
replayability. That's good.
Yeah, so it's that fun little thing that like adds to it, and it's cute. I thought that was cute, so that's why, as soon as we started up, I made sure to link you to the cheat code, so that way, if you would go through them, there's like all these different types of modes and stuff like this, and things like that.
So, what would you say, other than the throwing the enemies into the bucket, would be like your most tedious? Like, I would really just like to not do that part again if I had to play the game again.
Other than that, there's a lot of like the acrobatic puzzles. Like, there's a lot of puzzles there where you're just in an empty room and you don't know what to do next, and there's not really any clues. And it's like, it's like, because you're so used to using these puzzles to unlock a door, and then there are some times where the door just is already unlocked and you just got to walk through it, but you don't know that already because you're expecting a puzzle and stuff like that. So I guess less puzzle work, and more just straight up action.
Yeah, I wish Severin would help you a little bit more. Like, if you're taking too long, he could just tell you. Like, if this is your first time and you're smart and, you could just use your gamer instincts to just go through something that was supposed to be a puzzle, but you just kind of figured it out intuitively. But if you walk into an area and you don't know how to do it, it would be nice if they didn't just like pan the camera to one thing and be like, all right, that was the only hint you get. Now, granted, with your like vampire vision, you do sort of get like the BloodRayne logo as a sort of waypoint. It'll generally point you towards your objective. Problem is, if it's just an objective to be like, go that way, it doesn't really tell you how to get there. It doesn't tell you what you need to do. It's just like, it's up that way.
Yeah, it's like the objective is the door. Okay, I'm at the door and it's locked. What they don't tell you is you need to kill enough enemies until the door unlocks from the other side, from the enemies coming out. Until usually a lot of stuff is like you haven't killed enough enemies to trigger you haven't killed enough to implement the triggered event. There's a lot of triggered events where you have to just step forward another 2 or 3 feet to get to them, and they don't make it, it's not apparent, or you don't go far enough, or at least I find I haven't gone far enough, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I'm lost in the game, and I backtrack, and it's like, did I miss something? It's like, oh no, I just didn't go farther enough into it to get the triggered event. And that's
a good example for that
of
me is at the zoo part. Whenever you first are going into the zoo, I figured that one out fine, but whenever you get out of the first area, like the reptile house, you have to go to another one where you're going to the aquarium. You only get like the hint, like, hey, head to the aquarium once, and I didn't see which way it panned. I was looking at my phone or something, because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the engine, I don't know, whatever reason, BloodRayne was not talking really well with my OBS, so I couldn't really stream it. It was streaming at like 4 FPS. It looked terrible. So I was like, I'm just gonna play it offline, no big deal. But because of that, wasn't paying too much of an attention, and I can't just watch back the VOD. So once I take back control of Rain, I'm like, where do I go? This looks exactly like the place I started when I went into the reptile house. I can't get back into the reptile house, so I don't know what to do. And I just walked around the fountain for a minute or two until you walk towards the aquarium, and then guys come out to like let you into it, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of that is a lot of tedious, and I don't know if that's just bad level design, or if we're just not playing it the way that it's used to be played. If it's just an era, if we're just we're used to a different play mechanic.
I think it's a combination of modern day games are very handholdy and like will spam the hey, are you ready to go? Hey, come on, follow me. Hey, are you ready to go? Like every 4 seconds to constantly remind you, hey, let's go. Keep moving. In this, they tell you one time, and if you didn't listen, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you playing this game if you're not going to pay attention to what's on the screen? Yeah, so like I do appreciate games where you can miss it and then like open your journal or whatever, and your character will be like, I've come across a door, and apparently I have to solve 3 locks. One of them is in this room. It looks like one of them is here. We don't know where the third one is. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, cool. I missed all of that because I wasn't listening, but I can actually read it here in like my objectives list, and I appreciate that sort of. The information's there if you need it, and you can just kind of use the journal to omnisciently walk through things, or just ignore it and figure it out yourself. Now this just like you said, it's just, I don't know if this is just a gripe of game design. I don't know if it's just I've been spoiled and handheld. Like one of my favorite games is Dead Space, where you'll get like an objective, and you have a map where you can see the objective on the map, and then you literally have a button where you can press it, and then it'll reorient your character and put a line on the floor that says, hey, go that way. I'm like, okay, that's really helpful. I don't have to use either of those, and I can just wander around and figure it out through context clues and learning the ship, but I have the option to just, boop, go that way. Maybe I don't want all my games to be a big, huge challenge. That's why I've never really gotten into Dark Souls. Like, I don't want to be beaten up by the game I'm playing. Not really. Like, maybe a little bit of challenge, like, it's fine. Like, I just did Dead Space Impossible mode, and yeah, some of it was a real challenge. I almost died a couple of times. I did technically die twice, but because of a rework mechanic that just had, like, an instant fail. Like, if you walk into a room and shoot, the whole ship blows up and you die instantly. That wasn't in the original game. Didn't know. I lost instantly. I save scummed and rolled back. and then another section where I was walking through like an engine and there was invisible fire shooting out of the wall and I died because of invisible fire because the texture didn't load. Now, if I would have died to combat, that would be fine. I would have just accepted it and just lost. But I like a challenge. I just would like the challenge to be presented to me fun. I don't like smashing my head against the wall. And there was a couple instances in this game where I literally was screaming out loud because I was frustrated about the bullshit of this game. And it's hard to give that a pass because it actually upset me.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. And it's very clear that it's from a different area. I mean, the graphics hold up pretty well. I think it's got great scenery. The coloring is fantastic. It's grim dark, and everything just looks like it's supposed to look. Yeah, the models could be updated a little bit, but you get the point. You get the point that Rayne is this voluptuous character, and that she's this badass bitch, even though it really doesn't matter that her face is a little wonky. You're staring at her from behind like the whole time, and you only need to see her from a distance anyway. But the point is that it's when it's good, it's good. When it's really good, it's fantastic. It's the best. It's a fun game. You get into it. There are these little elements that take you out of it, and those could be streamlined and maybe later releases. But as far
if this
as
game got like a full, like a proper remake, I feel like this would be like maybe an all timer because this game is really good. Like Rayne's a good character. I like the setting. I like the story. I really like the environments. Like this game has so much going for it, and it's just a shame that it also has a lot taking away from it. But I when it comes to games that are now 20 years old, I easily can give them a point or two. It just because of like, oh, it's old, and if I would have played this when it came out, this would have been like on my list. I'd still be talking about this game if I would have had this in 2004, because this is a really good game.
Yeah, it's fun. It's that classic type of fun that you could get lost in it, and it definitely has that replay of value. That that's why it's good that it's got those little cheats, so that way you could just skip to your favorite part and just play that level over again.
There's
in some cases,
always a sort of
get lost in the story. Yeah.
There's always a sort of like nervousness when going back to a game like from before 2006, being like, man, like old gen consoles, like, is it going to be a good game? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to hold up? And I would say if you've never played BloodRayne, give it a shot. Play it on a console or play it on PC. It's got a 2021 version. Buy that one. It looks great and it handles pretty well, especially for a keyboard and mouse. Like a lot of games from 2004, you port it to keyboard controls and it functions like garbage. The only gripe I had for the controls is you control the camera obviously with the mouse. You move the mouse left, right, up and down to move the camera, and you move with WASD to move Rayne. The problem is if you're moving forward and turn the camera, Rayne also turns with the camera. I don't like that when I'm running. I would like to be able to run and look behind me and look sideways, but that's just because I'm used to more modern camera setups where I can do that. That's literally my only gripe of the entire control scheme. Everything else, I'm like, I just need to get good at it. It is what it is. It's very fair. There's not a lot of like, I felt like, oh, I'm just like getting bullshitted in combat, unless I get stuck. So if you've never played it, go play it. And if you played it back when it came out and you're looking to do it again, go. It holds up. This game, it will be as good as you remember. This game is freaking awesome. I'm really glad you suggested this to me because I never even heard of it. You said a couple of games and I was like, oh, yeah. I've heard of that one. Oh, I 100% that one. Ooh, I like that game. Ooh, I'm interested in that game. Never heard of this one. Cool. We'll do that one.
Yeah. Whenever I play this game, like before, I would play it with, keyboard and mouse. And when I revisited it for this episode, I tried it with a controller, and the controller was, it was a little bit different, but it was still fun. I was still able to get into the mix, so to speak, and get this stuff done and really sink into it. I'm sure with a little bit of practice, I could be like a lot better at it. But just for the episode, I had a lot of fun with this. It was a good fun to revisit.
I really, we didn't touch on it a lot, but Rain also has like a couple of powers. You have like a time slow and time stop, which is a great addition to the game. I just didn't use it much other than fighting the like the elite Dampier that could also dodge roll and stuff. That's the only time I really used the slow-mo. I feel like it would be good if it didn't drain your rage and it drained health instead. I feel like that would have been a great thing, because then you could, in theory, use your time slow and your damage boost and drain both of your things at the same time to get like more out of it. But that's just a personal gripe. I didn't feel like there was any problem really in combat. I really liked that your blood blades, whenever you activated them, yeah, it would drain your rage slowly, but it made you immune to knockdowns. So that was like really good for certain fights where enemies would just come and hit you in the back of the head with the pipe and knock you down in the middle of something. You just hit your blood ability and just be like, okay, I'm immune to knockdowns.
Yeah, there's a lot of, combos and moves in this that if you master them, they could get, you could get really, really good at this and juggle enemies and do all that fun stuff with it. A lot of the powers and stuff, I think they're very dated.
Mhm.
Because this came into the era of the Matrix and bullet time, and every single game had to implement bullet time because that's just what it is. I mean, look at the first Fear game; it had a bullet time button, and most
Yeah.
of the people that play it, they talk about playing it. They loved playing it without the bullet time. They liked the fast and furious action, and just they didn't even touch the bullet time. They just had fun, with these fast enemies coming in and then shooting them up and everything being a rush. And this is, it's from a different era where that was the thing. And I think even in the master cheats, there is a thing where you could actually make the game run faster by turning up like a certain time limit or a certain time factor. And
Mhm.
I actually found myself turning it up, and making it run a little bit faster so that because the game was moving too slow for me.
Yeah, once you get into a flow state, yeah, it does feel like you're just trouncing on enemies. You're just able to dodge roll behind them,
Mhm.
grab feed them, kill them in 1 second. You really get into a state of it. So I feel like that would be a good idea, increasing the enemy speed, because in my opinion, there is a very, very fine line, and I'm not even exactly sure where it is, between real difficulty and artificial difficulty. Like, there is a very noticeable line, I just don't know where it is. Something that
Mhm.
I would easily define as artificial difficulty is, ooh, the enemy has more health and you do less damage. I'm like, oh, so I have to hit them more? The fight takes longer? That's not difficult. That's annoying. If
Mhm.
if I go up in difficulty and they throw 3 more enemies at me, I still do the same damage, they still have the same health. Great, now I have a lot more to manage. I have to think differently. I have to plan accordingly. That is a really good indicator of difficulty and artificial difficulty. If they just big number go up and number go down, oh, cool, wow, oh, great, I'm playing math.
Mhm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's sort of like the hard mode is separated by how bullet spongy the enemies are, and
So if they were
and
just
you know
really fast, then it means they're still doing the same. I still have the same amount of health. I can kill them just as quick. I just have to be quicker than them. It increases your reaction time. It increases the flow of the game. And again, you probably have to think differently because like the suicide guys are running at you. And if you're fighting, then you don't have time to just like, oh, okay, I'll just deal with him in a couple of seconds. So he's going to be at you in just a moment.
yeah. Overall, it's a good fun game. It definitely could use some modern tweaks, but overall, it does. There are certain points where it does show its age, but among them, it's still a definite gem to have in your collection if you're a collector or just want a fun, unique. This is for like a good Saturday afternoon. This is you take it, you play with it, you put it down, and you have your fun, and this isn't like one of those where like modern games you have to always be on. There's always something going on. Like the we're seeing now with the live service games. This was just sort of like a good afternoon one and done. This is more of the era of the rental where you rent it for a couple weekends and have your fun with it. And it definitely serves its purpose.
I think to your credit to what you're saying, I didn't feel like at all I was like committed to doing it. Like I obviously had to finish it before the show, so I had like a sort of deadline to it. But after I finished the last game, which was the Outer Worlds, which is a long RPG and lots to do and lots to talk about, I stopped to do another bonus episode because we didn't get enough into it. Still, there's so much to it. It was really nice to pick up this game and be like, okay, how long to beat says it's 9 hours, which means the way I play it, it's probably going to be about 30. Cool. It's going to take me about 30 hours to beat the game. Not a big deal. I'm going to play slow. There's going to be a lot of times where I just pause it and watch a video or do something else while the game's just running. No big deal. It was really nice to feel like there's, just an easy pickup. You go to the next like little cutscene or like transition piece, or you go to the part where you hit the quick save or load your thing. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to hop off and go to work. I'm going to keep playing. It didn't feel like the game was... constantly being like, oh, hey, keep coming back. It felt like there was plenty of breaks to take, and that's what I really like about like chapter-based games. I just started Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's really nice to complete a section of the game. It's like chapter 2. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So this would be a good place to stop if I wanted to stop. If I wanted to stop, oh yeah, I just beat chapter 1. Hey, well, how far did you get last night? Oh, I just started at the end of chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that part of this game. Is like you said, it's just you just pick it up, you go. It's nice and short if you want to beat it in one thing. If you want to use the cheats and just pick a level that you like, go do the zoo level again, go do Kagan's Tower, do the mansion at the beginning of the game. There's a lot to this game that I feel like it would be fun to replay because there's a shit ton of cheats, good amount of level variety, and other than the fill the bucket parts, there's not one way to solve combat. It's not like you just walk into combat and just like, oh, shoot that guy first, blow up this container, solve fight, So I feel like in the future I wouldn't mind picking up this game again. I would have to have a reason to, because I've already beaten it, but this would be definitely a game that if I had to pick up again, I'd be like, oh man, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good one and done. And the cheats, of course, add the level of replayability, like playing it with like certain cosmetic differences, like junkie mode and costumes, and the level select makes it more bearable. That if you hit like a place that you get frustrated with, you could just skip it. And that adds a lot of fun to it. So
I think the God mode adds a lot of
fun.
fun too, because you have unlimited ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just go, instead of being like a melee game, you can just walk around and just shooting everybody with your bullets, which is pretty cool. Or I guess just turn on the cheat for unlimited bullets instead, so you can actually take health damage still, which is nice. There's a variety of cheats. It's not just like one or two cheats. Like you sent me the list and I was like surprised. I'm like, oh, this is like old school where there's like 25 cheats.
Yeah, and it's you don't have to feel guilty about it either, because a lot of them are purely cosmetic, and it's just to make the game more playable, not you don't have to feel guilty about it.
So we're getting to the point where we would normally try to wrap up, but I want to go over a couple of things before we do. What do you think about the story, like overall, of this game?
I'd have to say this is a better story, story wise than the first one. The first one you're playing a slog. It's sort of a very long winding story, and like I said before earlier, the character doesn't match the world she's in. She doesn't match the time period, because she's this punk rock girl in the 1940s, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In this one, she matches the world. She doesn't look any different than the enemies or the people that populate the world, which is, as far as implement, you only interact with like enemy characters. There's no, you don't really feel that the world is alive and populated. But then, given that you're in the recesses of the world, that's where you're gonna encounter all this stuff. You very rarely ever see any non-combat NPCs unless they're someone's victim or a dead body spewed someplace. So this isn't like one of those, it's not GTA where it's an open world type of thing. So it's sort of something different to get used to, but it's sort of a story that you're playing in. And I do like the story, how it's this sort of episode of, like, I describe it as like a television show. You're playing a TV series type of thing.
I think the
And I
plot's really simple too. Like I said, it's just a
Yeah.
simple story. In at least in the second game, it's the base A plot is Rain wants revenge because her dad killed her mom.
Mhm.
Pretty simple story. So he's gonna go get
Yeah.
revenge, or she's gonna get revenge by killing her dad and his kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the third one is more of a Castlevania-esque type of installment where it's a side-scrolling,
Oh, okay.
Metroidvania type. So I haven't yet picked that up because I really don't play those types of games, but I'll probably give it a shot. I recently picked up, what is it? The Record of Lodoss War, which is sort of another a Metroidvania type of game where it's based off of the anime, and you play Delete the elf doing fun stuff like that. And it's a different type of game. Every single entry into this is it's a different genre. So it's more like you're going along with the event. It's like the selling point is mostly the character, because a lot of these type of games, and for me, this one stands out the most because you feel the most involved and invested in it, because
Yeah,
the other one,
you're directly
yeah,
influencing the story. Like you're
yeah,
taking people out, you're doing objectives, you're doing a lot more directly.
absolutely,
You're
absolutely.
you're literally the field operative for Brimstone.
And yeah, and that's why I keep coming back to it, because it's good, and it's a fun romp for what it is, and I just enjoy it so much. So I have like lots of fun, and it's like I said, it's got the replayability, and I love playing my favorite scenes and levels and stuff like this, and having fun with it, and just seeing what I can get away with, and try to master all the combos and have fun with it, or just you know just put her in the nightgown outfit and then just go and just have fun, just slaughtering everybody, doing everything, and just all that kinds of fun. It's a good time waster and stuff like that. It's something that you could just get lost in, and just enjoy it just for the sake of enjoying it. And that's what I get out of it mostly.
I'm glad you're so passionate about it, because this is a really good series, and I really like the lore overall. Like, it's pretty cool. I'm seeing here that there is a couple of movies. Do you have anything to talk about with those? Are they related to the games at all?
Uh, Ubo was one of the directors. He directed the Postal movie, which was
Hmm.
probably his only good movie. And the drama around that is no one ever got to see it because he pissed off all the distributors before it came out. But other than that, to his credit, he directed a series of 3 BloodRayne films, and I watched them all, and they're all pretty much garbage. Like, not
Are they
even so
better or
bad that they're
worse than the Resident Evil movies?
I'd say they're worse, because I remember watching one. It was BloodRayne 3, I believe, and it took place in the Old West. And in this one, BloodRayne, the only action is BloodRayne falling down on her ass, in off of a barn or something, and that's like the only action in the movie. Other than that, it's just it not a lot happens. And I remember in another one,
That
I
sounds
think it was,
terrible. BloodRayne's like
I think,
an action shit.
yeah, and then in another one, it takes place in like the World War II backdrop. And in that one, the actor that they got to play the officer, like, she turns an officer, she gives him like vampirism, like, accidentally, and she's not able to kill him, but then he uses it, of course, to become like a super soldier for the SS.
Oh.
And and but the guy that they got to play it has like the thickest New York accent ever, and he's playing a
So it's
modern
not
day,
believable at all.
yeah, so he's playing like an era Nazi, and I mean, if he had like a thick Italian accent, and he was playing like one of the Italians types of thing, one of the Axis people, that would make sense. It would make sense in game and in era. But he's got this thick New York accent, and it completely takes you out of it. And I think probably the best entry was probably the first one, because it tries so closely to to, I guess, echo the game in a way, and it does somewhat try. But other than that, I mean, these movies are just so terrible, unfortunately. And I feel like that, if you want an action movie, BloodRayne is the best character to translate for action films. But in this one, I guess they were like low shoestring budget horror movies that they really didn't have the thing to really do any action with it. And that's unfortunate, because this would be perfect for, like, an acrobatic, like, say you get like an acrobat studio, like the guy that does the hard boiled movies. What is it? Jim Woo or whatever it is. This is like one of those ones where you have like the slow-mo doves flying all over the place. This would be perfect for something like that.
I
Even
could see
on
this
the
doing
low.
really well as like an HBO series, like give it like 6 or 7 episodes, because the way at least BloodRayne 2 is, done. It's here's the mansion level, here's the sewer level, here's this. So you could just, have it kind of just set piece episodes on it and do it kind of the way the Last of Us show did it, where each episode is most of the chapter that it's associated with the number, but it's a little bit into the next episode. So episode 1 of The Last of Us is chapter 1 of the beginning, or act 1 in the beginning of the game, plus a little bit into the second one. Then the second one bleeds into the third, so on and so forth. So the show becomes a little bit longer than than the supplementary material or the original material. I feel like this could be a good show because there's a lot to it, but wishful thinking.
Yeah, it would be good for like a mini series and stuff like that. So that way it's like a little bit more is put into it, but not so much that it drags on, that you have to worry about filler episodes. And I think that I don't know if there's been any animated BloodRayne stuff. I don't believe so. But
That's a shame.
the third installment has a sort of animated feel to it because it's done in cell shaded style. So that might be that. So there might be some animated cutscenes there that are interesting. But other than that, I think that the character of BloodRayne, unless it gets like a revival that really takes off, I don't think that we're going to see any more of the character, so far, because I think she's pretty much, run and done unless there's like a revival or something like that. If someone picks her up, like right now, they currently picked up with Laura Croft. They're trying to revive the hell out of Laura Croft. And I feel like BloodRayne is another character. But given now everything is squeaky clean now in Hollywood, I don't know that they would touch her because she's got this, because she's the bad girl.
Yeah. That is a shame. It's probably one of those IPs that's just going to sit around and collect dust, It's sad that there's so many of those sitting around that are pretty decent and, could see a decent revival. But, we're in the age of, well, we'll just stick with what works.
Yeah. It's when whatever studio is probably ready to get dirty again. If anything, it's going to probably be like a Blumhouse or something like that, some sort of smaller independent that's going to probably pick that up because for BloodRayne to get as far as she did, she does carry that sort of independent flair about her. That's sort of like she's not kosher, she's not market ready, she's not for kids type of thing. And at the time, I guess video games was sort of like, it was sort of breaking out of that mold of being just for kids with precursors like Mortal Kombat and that stuff, upping the ante with having blood and violence in them. And I think now with the revival of horror movies, of horror gaming, with like what is it, the what's the Dead by Dawn or Dead by Daylight, yeah, and various titles like that, where these games are having franchise characters like introduced into them, and there's like maybe like revivals if she could probably be like a playable character in something else, and then that could then lead on to a spin-off game of something. But it would be more like I would see them like having an already game format, and then they would just tag her onto it, that it really wouldn't be, originally thought out for her like they did with I think they did that with either the Friday the 13th or something, where they had like, it's just a reskin of an already existing game franchise, and then they just, put Jason in it or whatever,
Right, yeah.
and
She'd be like
called it that.
She'd be like, ooh, look at me, like, ooh, we own this, here, check us out, but, we're not doing anything new with it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what it's gonna go, but there's definitely, potential, and this is something that you could do stuff with, but I don't think that the structure is I don't know if the the modern audience isn't ready for a girl like BloodRayne. They're not ready for a bad girl. But the general audience, I think it would have to be handled, well enough. But I just don't think the structure right there is able there to support that. I don't think she's a good name, and she like offers something unique and different, but I don't think she has a big enough draw to warrant that people are gonna, even though she pretty much stood side by side with Laura Croft in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But Laura Croft had longevity because it was for general audience, whereas she wasn't, and I
No,
felt like
she's
that
for more like
ultimately hurt her.
adult, like more like adult, like more
Yeah,
edgy. Like it's
yeah,
shitty to use that, but
yeah,
yeah, like a more adult, edgy crowd.
yeah. When Edgy was actually cool, and I mean, because she's like the only character that had an official pinup. She was like an official pinup model.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I don't think any other character has had that in an official con.
Not really, no.
So she's pretty much a unique character where
I think the
there
closest
is,
would be like Samus, but she's always clothed.
yeah, something like that. So I don't know. I'm eternally hopeful, but the realistic on the structure of the market, I don't think it'll dictate it. Maybe if anything, it's going to be shoestring budget. It's going to be independent, because that's just the crowd. That's just that's just her roots. The
Right.
character's roots, as I could best describe it.
Is there anything else you want to touch on before we hit the last two segments of the show?
No, I'm all good. I'm all wrapped up on this. I'm ready for what's next.
So, what would be your favorite part of BloodRayne 2?
I'd have to say one of my favorite parts is sort of the aside from the one-liners, what makes a corpse twitch, the fun stuff like that. It's always fun to break stuff, and this game in it sort of, when I guess the graphics at the time, the engines at the time didn't handle breakable environments all that well. And there's tons of breakable shit in this game. And it was fun to just break stuff and to throw people into things. And they have like little death traps where there's so many things that you can impale people on. And that was the funnest part, was just seeing, how can I maximize the environment? How can I best use the environment to my advantage, and get, how can I get the most unique kill? How can I, because there's forklift hooks, there's debris all over the place with metal spikes all over, from like rebar spikes all over the place. There's all these, there's heads of rhinoceroses all over the place. There's all this fun stuff. There's statues with spears on them that you could, and there's like bookshelves and fine china and stuff that's just ready to have someone tossed into it and broken apart. And that's what I loved most, was just breaking shit. There's so much shit to break, and when some of the gameplay implements you actually having to break stuff, that's what I loved most, was breaking shit.
I think that's a fantastic answer, because that's not something I would have thought of at all, because I'm obviously a little bit more of a modern gamer. I try to keep up with things. I've got a pretty decent setup nowadays, so I can run the modern stuff as soon as it comes out. I'm ready to try Stalker 2 if I get some time. You know, I like the more modern stuff, so I'm used to things being like breakable. I'm used to, you know, like you hitting a wall and some paint chipping off permanently. You know, like maybe bullet holes don't stay forever, but you know, like I'm used to, you know, just regular damageable environments. So that's something I didn't even think of. But you're right, especially 2004. You know, like what would this have come out on? Let's see. The original would have come out on PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. Like, so, you know, like the original Xbox. So, yeah, for it having destructible environments and so much to it, there's like so much in this game that I overlooked that as just a possibility of it. But I think that's a really good answer because they have a lot of you were mentioning things that you could throw things into. Yeah, there's like statues with swords that you can throw enemies into, and then they'll get impaled and they'll bleed out as they despawn, and then you could throw more enemies into it. There's a segment of the fill the bucket where you had to throw enemies not into the bucket, but you had to throw them onto a spike, and then the spike would shoot air and launch the enemy into it. So, you know, there's a lot of interactable stuff, and I really do think that is a fantastic answer for you. So thank you for that. If I had to pick my favorite thing, it would just be I really wasn't expecting it to be such a story-based game, and I really enjoyed the full motion video cutscenes as well as it having like rendered mini cutscenes where, you know, it would actually happen live in engine. I wasn't expecting it to be such a cinematic game, and that's what I would say is probably my favorite thing, is because I really love stories. Like, it could be a shit game, but if the story's good, I will sit through it to, you know, keep playing it because I really want more of the story. And, I felt like this game was, it was carrying itself on both fronts, and it wasn't just one thing. What I mean is, I felt like the story was really good at carrying me through to the next segment of the game where I'd be like, ooh, okay, I want to hear the next bit of dialogue. So let me get through this. Let me fight through this. Let me go and let me get to the next story. So the gameplay was carried by the story and vice versa, where I was enjoying the gameplay because I was like, oh, at the end of this, I get rewarded with the story. So after the gameplay or after the cutscene's done, I get to go to a new environment. I get to explore new things. Ooh, there's a new enemy. So just how much shit in this is, and just it being such a cinematic game for how old it is, blew me away. Like, honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be what it was, and it wasn't any negative to it. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be, you know, like, I don't know, clunky beat 'em up from 2004. Nope, it was way better than that. So
yeah,
thank you for the suggestion.
I do remember when PS2 first came out, being blown away at in-engine cinematics. You know, it's like, oh, so we described it best as, oh, you're playing the cutscenes. And that was like a huge leap in graphics and stuff like this for us old fogies at the time, you know. And like I said, how side by side that you know, BloodRayne is sort of, you know, on par with Lara Croft. In this one, yeah, Lara Croft is a sexy built character, but her boobs aren't triangles, you know. So that's sort of a fun addition.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. The last segment is always getting in some plugs. So why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and what you've been up to and what you will be up to?
Let's see. I've been up to, you can find me on YouTube at Conspire Theory Podcast. Also on Instagram and Twitter at Conspire Theory, all one word. You can find me there. I'm always posting artwork. I'm always posting, you know, fun little segments. I run a paranormal interview show called Conspire Theory, where I talk about, you know, fun stuff like ghosts and aliens and fun shit like that. I think the episode that should come out after Thanksgiving, I'm interviewing Natasha from Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracies, and we talk about fun stuff on that show. My latest interview which is out now, is with Michaela Ford of Paranormal or What podcast. She was fun to talk to. It was like a lot of fun. At the ass end of the interview, we talk about Doctor Who and fun stuff like that. So it's paranormal and stuff, but it's also entertainment and stuff like that. So there's always something fun going on, and I always like to talk about interesting, fun things, and it's a good time, and I'm glad to come on this show and spread my wings and talk about video games and stuff like that, because I grew up on all these video games, and I used to be on a gaming podcast a long time ago, and it's great to sort of reflect, rework those muscles again, to look at games in a sort of editorial light and get to talk about them on fun shows like yours.
Well, thank you very much. I really kind of like the niche I'm carving over here, because as far as like Hackverse related shows, I'm like the only one that is like, hey, this is completely non-related to anything even slightly, and it's just a big hobby that I have that occasionally I talk about Dabbleverse related things, but probably not usually. And it's really nice to get people on that are from the universe that are like, hey, I also really like that stuff, and it's nice to have an outlet to talk about it. And hey, I haven't played this game in 14 years, so I might as well pick it up again. Like you said, talk about it analytically while also just going back to enjoy it for what it is, because that's a big thing on my show here. Is I really like just talking about the games, because that's my biggest hobby. It's my biggest passion. I really love games, and there's so much to them. There's so much variety, and there's such a beautiful art form that it's like the only real interactive form of media. Like, you can go on social media, you can tweet, you can do that, you can like watch a movie, you can write reviews for it, you can go out and you can play out in the yard, but there's not something that you're like watching while also interacting with and experiencing and getting like live feedback from. And that's why it's such a big passion for me. There's just like nothing like gaming. And it's nice to be able to just talk about it to people, because it really is. It's fun to play new things, and I'm so glad you introduced me to this. And for the next episode coming up, we haven't done a date for it. It's going to be a game called Disco Elysium, suggested by return guest Spurgsnake. It is a RPG I've never heard of that apparently has super good dialogue and a bunch of choices, and it's got a great art style. I took one look at it and I'm like, okay, I'm in. So that it's exciting to be able to play new things that I've never experienced, as well as old things. So I really appreciate people like you coming on to expose the big gaps in my knowledge, because I didn't have a PlayStation growing up. So you're like, hey, you go play Tomb Raider. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, maybe I should, because I've never fucking played any Tomb Raiders. So, it'd be nice to expand my horizon while helping lift up other people and being like, hey, you like gaming, go do it.
Yeah. I don't know if you do any panel shows where you if you ever have like a Dabbleverse scene panel show, I'd love to come on, and talk with like Tracker Andy and Hughesley and all that stuff about, gaming and fun stuff like that. So if you ever get that going in the works, I'd love to be a part of that. And it's always fun to be, a part of this scene and to, expand, because like a lot of people, everybody's into so much different stuff. And it's nice to, exercise a different set of muscles other than just laughing at Stuttering John drooling on himself,
Yeah, as much as I love doing that. But before we close the show, we have one comment coming in. When we were talking about revivals, Spurgsnake says lots of games need a revival, such as Nightmare Creatures. Never heard of it, but I will look into it, because
that's a classic.
I trust Spurgsnake's judgment. All of the stuff we've interacted with on has been a hit in my mind, so I'll take a look at it. And I thank everyone for joining. And until then, we'll see you next time.